Welcome, dear listeners, to History with Herodotus, where we embark on a journey through the labyrinth of time, unraveling the mysteries of the past. Today, we find ourselves at the threshold of one of history's most pivotal moments, the fall of Rome. As we delve into the origins of this epical event, let us transport ourselves to the 2nd century AD, a time when Rome's dominion over the known world seemed unassailable. The Roman Empire, forged by the indomitable will of men like Augustus and Trajan, stretched from the misty shores of Britannia to the scorching deserts of Egypt, its reach as boundless as the ambitions of its people. We find ourselves in the bustling streets of Rome, where the sounds of merchants hawking their wares, fine silks from Tyre, exotic spices from India, and freshly baked bread from the ovens of Pompeii fill the air, and the clang of hammers on metal echoes through the forums. It was during this period that the seeds of decline were sown. The year 161 AD marked the beginning of the reign of Marcus Aurelius, a philosopher king who would rule with wisdom and justice, but also face numerous challenges, including wars with Germanic tribes, economic troubles, and a devastating plague. The empire's vast territories, which had once been a source of strength, now seemed to stretch its resources to the breaking point. The Roman legions, once the epitome of military prowess, were increasingly overextended, and the empire's borders were vulnerable to attack. The year 166 AD marked a significant turning point in the history of the empire, as the Antonine Plague swept through Rome, claiming millions of lives and weakening the very fabric of society. The plague, which was likely smallpox or measles, had a devastating impact on the empire's demographics, leading to a shortage of manpower and a decline in economic productivity. The once thriving cities of Rome, Alexandria, and Antioch were now filled with the sick and the dying, their streets empty and silent. This young emperor, known for his extravagance and instability, would usher in an era of decadence and decline, marked by corruption, mismanagement, and external pressures that would eventually prove too great for the empire to bear. The Roman Senate, once a bastion of wisdom and governance, was now filled with sycophants and yes-men, more interested in pleasing the emperor than in serving the state. The seeds of destruction were sown during this period, as the Roman Empire became increasingly reliant on mercenary forces to defend its borders rather than the traditional legions. The empire's vast territories, which had once been a source of strength, now seemed to stretch its resources to the breaking point. The 2nd century AD was a time of immense prosperity as the Pax Romana, or Roman peace, reigned supreme. The Roman Forum, once a humble marketplace, had evolved into a grand hub of commerce, law, and governance, with imposing structures like the Temple of Julius Caesar and the Basilica of Maxentius dominating the landscape. It was during this period that some of Rome's most iconic landmarks were constructed, including the Colosseum, that mighty amphitheater which could accommodate up to 50,000 spectators, who gathered to witness gladiatorial contests, animal hunts, and even reenactments of famous battles. The Pantheon, a masterpiece of Roman architecture, was built during the reign of Hadrian, its dome an engineering marvel that would remain the largest in the world for over 1,700 years. Rome's cultural achievements were equally impressive, as scholars like Galen and Ptolemy made groundbreaking contributions to the fields of medicine and astronomy. The works of Roman poets like Ovid and Virgil continued to inspire generations of writers, while the jurist Justinian would later compile the Corpus Juris Civilis, a comprehensive codification of Roman law that would shape the course of Western jurisprudence. Merchants from all corners of the known world flocked to Rome's markets, exchanging exotic goods like spices, textiles, and precious metals for Roman coinage. The Roman Empire was a beacon of stability and prosperity, attracting people from all walks of life, from philosophers to artisans, who came to seek their fortunes in the Eternal City. The Roman legions, those legendary fighting forces, continued to expand the empire's borders, conquering new territories and incorporating diverse cultures into the Roman fold. The reign of Trajan, which began in 98 AD, marked a period of significant military expansion, as Rome annexed Dacia, a region in modern-day Romania, and established a permanent presence in the Middle East. However, beneath the surface of this grandeur, subtle cracks were beginning to appear. The empire's vast territories, once a source of strength, now seemed to stretch its resources to the breaking point. The Roman legions, once the epitome of military prowess, were increasingly overextended, and the empire's borders were vulnerable to attack. Corruption and mismanagement were becoming endemic, as officials like the prefect of Rome, a position created by Augustus, began to abuse their power. The seeds of decline sown during this period would eventually sprout into a full-blown crisis, one that would shake the very foundations of the Roman Empire. The 3rd century AD marked a period of significant turmoil, with civil wars, external invasions, and economic troubles plaguing the empire. The year of the 5 emperors, 1903 AD, saw no less than 5 claimants to the throne, each vying for power in a bloody struggle that would ultimately leave the empire weakened and divided. The reign of Commodus, which began in 80 AD, was marked by decadence and instability, as the emperor's megalomania and paranoia led to a series of disastrous decisions that further eroded the empire's foundations. As the empire's borders were repeatedly breached by external invaders, such as the Goths and the Huns, the Roman legions found themselves stretched thin, struggling to defend against an array of enemies. The Battle of Edessa in 260 AD saw the Roman army defeated by the Persians, with the Emperor Valerian captured and paraded as a trophy. This humiliating defeat marked a significant turning point in the empire's fortunes, as its aura of invincibility began to fade. Meanwhile, internal troubles continued to mount, as corruption and mismanagement became endemic. The prefect of Rome, once a powerful position created by Augustus, had become a hotbed of abuse and nepotism, with officials embezzling funds and exploiting their power for personal gain. The economy, too, was in shambles, with inflation running rampant and trade declining as the empire's infrastructure began to crumble. As the empire's institutions began to fail, its people turned to alternative forms of organization and protection. The rise of the Bagaudae, bands of peasant warriors who roamed the countryside, marked a significant shift away from centralized authority, as local communities took matters into their own hands. The church, too, played an increasingly important role, as Christianity spread throughout the empire, offering a sense of community and purpose in a time of chaos. The reign of Diocletian, which began in 284 AD, marked a last-ditch effort to reform and revitalize the empire. His introduction of the Tetrarchy, a system of 4 co-emperors, aimed to stabilize the imperial succession and streamline governance. However, this experiment ultimately proved unsuccessful, as the empire continued to fragment and decline. The once mighty legions are no more, their eagle standards lost or captured, as the empire's territories are carved up among various warlords and chieftains. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, remember that to understand the present, we must first understand the past.